All right, so today we're diving deep into something that you might think you already know a lot about, dust mites. But we're going beyond just the basic allergy info today.
Yeah, we're really going to get into it.
We're going to be looking at how those little critters can actually mess with your skin and how you can deal with those reactions.
That's right, those skin reactions.
Our main source for all this is a guide published by the folks over at Hey Allergy.
Great source.
And to help us break it all down, we've got a real expert here with us today.
Should we introduce him now?
Let's do it. Everyone, meet Dr. Kroikor Manoukian.
He's a board-certified allergist with Hay Allergy.
And he's actually one of the authors of the guide we're looking at.
He's seen it all, so we're really lucky to have his insights today.
Okay, so let's jump right in. I think a lot of people picture, like, tiny little dust mites actually biting them, like little vampires.
Yeah, like tiny little jaws.
But that's not really what's going on, is it?
Not at all. It's actually an allergic reaction.
Oh,
Plain and simple. In the guide, Dr. Manoukian explains it really well.
What does he say?
He says your skin is actually reacting to proteins found in their droppings.
Okay, so like their poop.
Exactly. And get this, the decaying bodies of the mites themselves.
Oh, okay. That is both interesting and a little bit gross.
Yeah, just a little bit.
So it's not a bite, but an allergy. But what does that actually look like on your skin? Like, what should people be looking out for?
Well, the guide lists a bunch of common signs. And Dr. Manoukian is really careful to point out that the severity can vary from person to person.
Oh, yeah, for things.
But you'll probably see redness
Okay,
and inflammation, usually in patches,
makes sense.
especially where your skin touches things like bedding or furniture.
So you're saying if you wake up with red, blotchy skin, it might be more than just, bad night's sleep.
Yeah, could be those dust mites saying hello.
I'm guessing it's not just about how it looks, though, right? That probably feels pretty uncomfortable, too.
Oh, absolutely. The guide emphasizes how intense the itching can be.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
And Dr. Manoukian actually says it often gets worse at night.
I guess that makes sense when you think about it. You're spending hours in bed surrounded by pillows and blankets.
Prime dust mite real estate.
Yeah, exactly. So you're just like constantly exposed.
And that constant exposure and irritation often leads to some specific rash patterns.
Like what?
Well, we're talking hives,
Hives.
dry patches that look a lot like eczema,
Okay.
and even thickening of the skin over time.
So let's say someone is listening to this right now and thinking, wait a minute, maybe that weird rash I have, IS, from dust mites,
It happens all the time.
how can they be sure? It seems like a lot of skin conditions could have those same symptoms.
Yeah, that's where it gets tricky. Dr. Manoukian really stresses the importance of paying attention to patterns and timing.
So like what specifically?
Well, does the rash get worse in the morning after you've been in bed?
Hmm,
Or does it get better when you're away from home, like on vacation?
I see.
Those are pretty strong clues that it could be dust mites.
So it's like playing detective with your own skin.
That's a great way to put it. Looking for clues to figure out what's causing the problem?
Exactly.
Right.
But how can you tell a dust mite rash apart from, say, an allergic reaction to, I don't know, a new laundry detergent?
That's a good question. Unlike some other reactions, dust mite rashes don't usually spread by contact
Oh, interesting.
or leave any lasting marks or scars.
Okay.
Dr. Manoukian also points out that they typically respond well to allergy medications.
That makes sense.
And importantly, to actually making changes in your home environment.
So it's not just about treating the symptoms, it's about getting to the root of the problem.
Exactly. You got to tackle those dust mites head on.
Okay, so let's say you ignore it, though.
Not a good idea.
Can these dust mite problems actually become bigger issues down the road?
That's the thing. Dr. Manoukian warns about the long-term effects of chronic exposure.
What kind of effects?
We're talking about persistent eczema,
Yeah.
skin thickening, and even a heightened sensitivity to other allergens.
Oh.
It's like your immune system is constantly in overdrive, reacting to those dust mite proteins.
So it's not just a temporary annoyance. It can actually have lasting consequences for your skin.
Exactly.
And, even lead to new allergies.
That's right. Dr. Manoukian actually talks about that in the guide, too.
So it sounds like if you think you might be dealing with dust mite-related skin issues, you shouldn't just brush it off.
No,
Getting a proper diagnosis from an expert like Dr. Manoukian is really important.
absolutely. And luckily, with platforms like Hey Allergy, it's easier than ever to connect with a board-certified allergist, even if you don't live near one.
That's so great. So let's say you get that diagnosis, and dust mites are the bad guys behind your skin problems. What can you actually do about it? Like, what are your treatment options?
Well, Dr. Manoukian explains that it's a two-pronged approach.
Okay.
First, you need to deal with those uncomfortable symptoms.
So, like, how?
Think anti-inflammatory creams,
Makes sense.
oral antihistamines,
Okay.
maybe some soothing, cool compresses. And of course, good moisturizers to help repair your skin barrier.
So treat the immediate discomfort.
Exactly. And then you got to figure out how to stop those dust mites from causing problems in the first place.
The long-term game.
That's right. And that's what we'll be digging into next. Stay tuned.
Okay, so we've tackled those immediate symptoms. Now let's get into the long game. How do we manage dust mites so they don't become a recurring nightmare?
Well, the guide dives deep into that, and it's really fascinating.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the secret weapon here?
The key, according to Dr. Manoukian, is this multi-pronged approach.
Multi-pronged, okay.
We're talking environmental control, using preventive medications, and some cases even immunotherapy.
Okay, so it's not just one thing. It's a whole strategy.
Right. It's about minimizing exposure to those pesky dust mite allergens.
I'm ready to evict those dust mites for good.
Me too. So let's break it down, starting with environmental control. Where do we even begin?
On all ears.
Well, Dr. Manoukian really emphasizes focusing on the bedroom first.
Okay, the bedroom makes sense.
Think about it. You spend a third of your life there, and it's a dust mite paradise. It's where you want to start making changes.
So let's transform our bedrooms into dust mite-free zones. What's step one?
First and foremost, allergen-proof bedding covers.
Those mattress and pillow protectors.
Exactly. They're like your front line of defense, creating a barrier between you and the allergens in your mattress and pillows.
I can see how that would help.
But Dr. Manoukian's really clear that not all covers are created equal.
So what should we be looking for?
You want to look for ones that are tightly woven
Tightly woven.
and certified by reputable organizations like the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America.
Got it. So it's worth doing your research and investing in good quality covers.
Definitely.
Now, what about the rest of our bedding? Sheets, blankets, that kind of stuff.
Well, regular washing is key,
Okay, I do that anyway.
but it's not just about cleanliness.
Hmm.
The guide specifically recommends washing your bedding every week in hot water. The heat actually helps kill dust mites
Makes sense.
and wash away their allergens much more effectively than cold water.
So hot water is a must.
Yes. Any other bedroom tips you can think of?
Let me see. I remember reading something about humidity.
Yeah. Humidity is a huge factor.
So if I live in a humid climate, I'm kind of out of luck.
Not necessarily. Dust mites thrive in humidity because they actually absorb moisture from the air.
Oh, so they need it to survive.
Exactly. So keeping humidity levels low is crucial.
Okay, so how do you do that?
Well, dehumidifiers can help,
Right, dehumidifiers.
and air conditioners too.
Okay, good to know. Anything else for the bedroom?
Regular vacuuming is another big one.
Vacuuming.
But again, not all vacuums are created equal.
Oh no, what else do I have to buy now?
Dr. Manoukian really stresses the importance of using a vacuum with HEPA filtration.
HEPA filtration, what is that?
HEPA stands for High Efficiency Particulate Air.
Ah,
Basically, these filters are designed to trap those tiny dust mite particles that regular vacuums would just blow back into the air.
so you're saying my regular vacuum might actually be making things worse.
It's possible. Those dust mites are sneaky.
Okay, I'm convinced.
Hmm.
HEPA filtration it is. We've covered the bedroom pretty thoroughly.
Yeah.
What about the rest of the house? Any tips for whole home dust mite control?
Absolutely. One big one is removing carpets if you can.
No more cozy carpets.
Carpets are notorious for harboring dust mites,
They seem so innocent.
but they provide a perfect breeding ground, especially if they're not cleaned really well and really regularly.
So, carpets are out, or at least need a serious deep clean.
Right. Now, what about air purifiers? Have you thought about those?
I've seen them advertised, but I'm not sure how well they actually work.
Well, HEPA air purifiers can actually be a great investment.
Oh.
They work by constantly filtering the air and removing dust mite allergens.
So basically, they're like little dust mite assassins.
That's one way to put it. And they can really help reduce your overall exposure.
Okay, I'm adding those to my shopping list. Anything else I should know about whole home control?
Don't underestimate the power of professional cleaning services.
You mean like hiring a cleaning crew?
Exactly. They have the expertise and equipment to get into those hard-to-reach places where dust mites love to hide.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that.
It can make a big difference.
So it's all about teamwork HEPA filters, regular cleaning, and even calling in the professionals.
That's the spirit. working together to defeat those dust mites.
Now, we've talked about recognizing symptoms, getting a diagnosis, and implementing all this environmental control.
Right? A lot to cover.
But there's more to the story, isn't there? What about those preventive medications and immunotherapy?
Absolutely. Those are important pieces of the puzzle.
Especially when environmental control alone isn't cutting it.
Exactly. And that's what we'll dive into next.
All right, so let's talk about those other weapons in our dust mite fighting arsenal.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about preventive medications?
Well, Dr. Manoukian explains there are a few types of medications that can actually help prevent or reduce those allergic reactions.
Okay, so like what? What kind of medications are we talking about here?
One common type that he mentions is antihistamines.
Oh yeah, antihistamines.
They work by blocking the effects of histamine, which is that chemical your body releases during an allergic reaction.
So they're like putting up a shield, blocking those allergy symptoms before they even have a chance to start. Are these prescription medications, or can you get them over the counter?
Good news is many antihistamines are actually available over the counter. Super easy to get.
So if those itchy patches are driving you crazy, you can just make a quick trip to the drugstore.
Exactly. You can find them in both oral and topical forms too.
So you got options. Okay, now what about immunotherapy? We touched on that earlier, and it sounds a bit more involved.
Immunotherapy is pretty interesting, actually. It's a long-term treatment that aims to retrain your immune system to become less sensitive to those dust mite allergens.
So instead of just blocking symptoms, you're actually trying to change how your body reacts to those allergens. How does that work?
Basically, it involves receiving regular doses of allergen extract.
Okay, so like a little bit of the dust mite allergen.
Exactly. And there are two main ways to do this. One is through allergy shots, and the other is through something called sublingual immunotherapy.
Allergy shots, I've heard of those. What's sublingual immunotherapy?
It uses these tablets that you dissolve under your tongue.
Interesting. So you're basically exposing your body to a tiny bit of the allergen regularly, so it gradually gets used to it.
That's the idea. And hopefully over time, it stops overreacting.
So are there pros and cons to each method? Like, is one better than the other?
Well, Dr. Anukian points out that allergy shots, while very effective, they require regular visits to a healthcare provider's office.
I can see how that could be inconvenient for some people. Busy schedules, you know.
Exactly. But on the other hand, sublingual immunotherapy is done at home.
Oh, so that's much more convenient.
It is. You just take those tablets daily. But it can take a little longer to see results compared to allergy shots.
So it's a trade-off. Convenience versus speed. I can see how choosing between the two would be a personal decision. What factors should someone consider when making that choice?
I think the most important thing is working closely with a board-certified allergist like Dr. Manoukian.
They can really help personalize that approach.
Exactly. They can assess your individual situation, really understand your preferences, and guide you toward the best option.
Like having a coach in your corner. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from environmental control to medications and immunotherapy. But before we wrap up this deep dive, anything else people should keep in mind for long-term dust mite management?
One thing Dr. Manoukian really emphasizes is the importance of regular monitoring.
So even when you find a treatment plan that works, it's not like you're done.
Right. Your needs can change over time, so checking in with your allergist periodically is a good idea.
Makes sense. Stay on top of it. Now, before we go, I want to talk about the bigger picture for a minute. What happens if you just ignore those dust mite allergies?
That's a great question, and honestly, ignoring dust mite allergies can lead to more than just discomfort. Dr. Manoukian actually points out that chronic exposure to those allergens can make your allergies worse over time.
So, not a good idea to just tough it out.
Not at all. It can lead to more serious issues, like persistent eczema, increased sensitivity to other allergens, and even in some cases, it can contribute to developing asthma.
Wow, so it's not just about a little bit of itching and sneezing.
It can have real implications for your overall health.
Especially for kids, right?
Exactly. Addressing those dust mite allergies early on can really help prevent bigger problems down the road.
Well, there you have it, folks. A deep dive into the world of dust mites and how they affect your skin.
We covered a lot today.
We explored the telltale signs, the science behind those reactions, and most importantly, we gave you the knowledge and strategies to take control.
It's all about empowering yourself to create a healthier environment.
You don't have to suffer in silence. There are solutions out there, and with the right information and support, you can minimize the impact of dust mites on your life. So until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay comfy in your own skin.